What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing a boot review, a long overdue one, as I think I've been saying in all my videos, of the Nike Mercurial Superfly 8 Elite. Now this specific one is from the Progress Pack colorway, which is the last colorway of the Superfly 8, or Vapor 14 by extension. That was released before this was replaced with the current Superfly 9. So yes, as you guys can see, this is actually a retro boot review, even though these are not that old, maybe like 2 years old, something like that. As with all my other reviews, we're going to go into the 6 aspects of the boot that I like to consider in order to make my final rating, which are the upper, the sole plate slash outsole, the lockdown and fit, the fit and comfort, durability, and finally the overall performance. Although I will be honest, the overall performance I may not touch on that much because that might come through in the other 5 sections of the boot that I'm going to review. So without further ado, let's get started with this review. Beginning with the upper we have here is called Vaporposit, which is the precursor to what you would see on the Mercurial Superfly 9 or Vapor 15, called Vaporposit Plus. And basically, Vaporposit is just a fusion of 4 or 5 different composite layers or thin textile sheets that are taken and fused together to form this one thin overlay of the upper that's located on the Superfly 8. Like I said just now, it's very thin because of the composite layering, and as a result, whenever you strike the ball, control it, pass it, whatever you do with the ball on your feet with these boots, it feels very barefoot, very raw, and very pingy, which is a nice feeling for those people who are used to having thinner, lightweight boots on their feet. Additionally, breaking these in is a bit touchy, honestly, because it's not like the old generation Superfly 7, where that upper was more of a knit base that felt like a sock, which would just mold to your foot and really stretch with your foot in a simpler, easier fashion. Because this is synthetic, it still molds to the foot decently well, but it also has that extra stiffness because of it being more of a plasticky type of material. And as such, when you're trying to break it in, it'll take maybe a session or two more than something like the Superfly 7 did in order for you to get that same softness or that same appeal. Now I've had 2 other pairs, including these, and a lot of experience with this upper, so I can definitely say once you've broken it in, it's very soft, very comfortable to the touch. And while you do get a little bit of creasing here and there because it's not the most accurate mold to the foot, it still feels great on feet. And with all that raw sensation, if you're a person like me who likes to have more contact with the ball and more feeling on the ball, this upper will be fantastic for you. So because of this, I give this upper a 10 out of 10. Well done from the Vaporposit on this Mercurial Superfly 8 Elite. Moving on to the sole plate of the football boot. This sole plate is what Nike would like to call the anatomical sole. You can't really see it because it's actually inside of the boot, but what it basically does is that when you would step into the boots, it would mold to the base of your foot, and that would allow for more locked in, more one-to-one true fit with the boot when you were wearing them on feet. And it's made for a very comfortable, cozy, and very mind body connection type of connection with the boots. Add to that, you have the stud pattern, which has 11 chevron bladed studs, something that was characteristic of the Mercurial series up until they replaced it for the new Air Zoom unit with the new stud pattern on the current Mercurial Superfly 9 and Vapor 15 Elite. This stud pattern, in my opinion, is still one of the best stud patterns out there right now. At its time, when this was still the current model, this was the most aggressive stud pattern on the market, period. And you can see why. With all those chevrons, you get a lot of traction, a lot of grip, and a lot of bite when you're trying to push off, especially in the forwards direction, which made these very good for, straight light sprinting. Add a kind of placebo effect because, as we know, boots won't necessarily make you run faster or make you change direction better. It may be a placebo effect, but for me, I can definitely feel that placebo effect, and I really enjoy the aggressiveness that these studs offer. For AG, this is not the best stud pattern, but as you can see, I have been using these on AG a lot, as shown by the black stains that are on the sole plate. And while I do notice the clinginess that comes from this type of outsole, I don't really mind it. I think it's still amazing. And so long as you know how to plant your foot properly and move properly, I suppose, you could get away with using these on AG and you'll still get the same benefits that you have from wanting to sprint faster, getting a lot of grip and traction when you're trying to go forwards, which is always the best part of a sole plate for me personally. Rotationally, it's not the greatest because again, these are blades. They're better for straight line movement, not really for rotational pivoting and twisting. But that's okay. And on top of that, this is super light. With this stiffener bar here in the middle, you get a lot of snapback, a lot of responsiveness from the boots, which is very good if you want something that gives you a very on your toes type of feeling. And as such, this outsole for me is very phenomenal. Honestly, if they kept this on the current gen Mercurial, I wouldn't be mad. And it's one of the few things that I really miss going from this generation to the current gen Mercurial. So with that, I'm going to give this outsole and Soulplay a 10 out of 10 for performance. Moving into the fit and comfort, this is probably the area where this boot suffers the most. And honestly, it's more on the comfort side than the fit side. When it comes to the fit, as mentioned in the last segment, you have the anatomical sole plate, which makes for a really good locked in fit with the base, and it feels comfortable and one to one with your foot, which is great. The vapor posit upper is super thin, and as I mentioned earlier, it molds to the foot pretty well, similar to something like a knit upper, but just that little bit of extra creasing. It's also very soft, and because of the way that it's shaped, it has a more snug fit compared to something like a Predator or maybe even the current gen Phantom GX, which is nice because it wraps your foot more one to one. In the heel, you have a perfect, cushion and surrounding across the back of the heel. You have these really small like heel pods on the inside. I don't know if the camera's picking them up, but they really grip your heel and keep it locked in place. And then finally, with this dual hole lacing setup, central lacing system, that also keeps your foot locked in from the top down. So the fit is pretty good on these boots. The area that really struggles is in the collar. Now I don't know if you can see it right here, but you can see this kind of, valley that appears with the seam of the collar. And this is the part that causes me the most issues when it comes to the comfort, because this valley represents the seam going inwards, if you can see from inside. And when that goes inwards, it digs into the Achilles tendon, which is where the collar would usually rest. This is extremely uncomfortable. I've experienced it on all three of my Superfly 8 models, and it's one of the reasons why in this title it says love-hate relationship. This is the primary issue that I have with this boot, where it becomes a hate relationship. When these blisters start, they are very unbearable to handle. If you play through them, like, just gets worse and worse and worse. And if you have to use these boots as your only boots, you have training the next day or something like that, it's just a nightmare to have. Which is why this collar, it's ridiculous. I don't know why, coming from the Superfly 7, it's like this one just lost so much structure compared to the collar that was on the 7. Luckily, the Superfly 9 has rectified this and given us a collar that actually has structure, where the seam doesn't bend inwards and, like, dig into the Achilles. But with this one, I don't know what it is. It's just, maybe it's too flimsy, there's not enough structure, but it digs in and it's super uncomfortable. So for that, that drops my fit and comfort rating by at least 3 points to a 7 out of 10. Otherwise, the boots are phenomenal. And another thing to mention about this is that the blistering issue where the seam will dig in, it's very random. Sometimes you won't even notice it. Sometimes it will start out of nowhere. Sometimes, even if you've had your ankles blistered by these for a long time and they're heavily calloused and, you know, protected from the blistering, you won't notice it, and then out of nowhere it'll start again. And if you have to wear it, if it starts early in your training session and goes on and on and on, by the end of your training session, you'll feel like your ankles are bleeding, which is not a fun sensation. Which is why, like I said before, these get a 7 out of 10 when it comes to the fit and comfort. In terms of lockdown, the lockdown on these is phenomenal, starting with the lacing system. Dual lace hole setup, and it's central, which means that it has a lot of coverage across both sides of your foot, equally balanced. So that's good. Again, the Mercurial has always had a really narrow last. Even though it's wider than previous generations, that narrow last allows it to make sure that it's wrapping your foot really snugly, especially if you have wide feet like me, which makes for a very locked in, secure fit. And then finally, you add in the anatomical sole plate, which hugs the sole of the foot really well and prevents it from sliding around for any, like, rotational or lateral slippage, which is great. Again, with the heel, you have a very tight, locked in type of heel with these heel pods that make sure that your heel isn't sliding up or down. And especially with grip socks, that magnifies the effect of this heel even more. You don't need grip socks to get that effect, but it's a very welcome effect to have with the power of this heel. So for lockdown, these are going to get a 10 out of 10. It's absolutely phenomenal. Not much more I can say about it. Moving into the durability, again, amazing build quality on these boots. I've had these since July 2023, which is about 6 or 7 months. I'm not entirely sure, but I haven't seen any real issues in terms of build quality or damage to the boots. The studs on both boots, they have the appropriate wear and tear for using them on turf and on firm natural grass, which is to be expected. Little bits of like plastic chipping or whatever, but that's normal with like any type of football boot. And when it comes to the actual junctions where the sole plate is fused to the base of the upper, there's no sole separation on either of the boots, which is extremely phenomenal, which means I can use them for a lot longer. Um, I do have one pair of Superfly 8s that has sole separation, but that pair I had for 2 years before switching to a new pair of boots. So that I do know what could happen, but again, that's pretty good. If you have to wait a year and a half before your boots start to separate, that's pretty good. On the upper itself, just a bit of staining and dirt, um, a little bit of turf stains, grass stains here and there. The collar stained as well. But apart from that, the boots are in pretty much great condition and can still be given to someone or worn for a long time without them breaking down or anything. So for the durability and build quality, I'm just going to give these a 10 out of 10. For the overall performance of the Nike Mercurial Superfly 8 Elite, as you can probably guess, I have a lot of high things to say about this, a lot of high praise. Super fun to wear on feet because of how lightweight it is, how comfortable it is, but how locked in and secure you feel. Touch on the ball, super barefoot, raw, pingy. Sole plate has great traction, great grip, bite, and because you're locked in again, you don't have much lateral or rotational slippage, which is very nice, makes for a very good experience. The comfort is great. The heel is okay in terms of this collar, in terms of the actual heel itself. That's phenomenal. But the collar, as mentioned before, with the issues of the blistering and the ankle seam or the seam digging into your Achilles tendon on the ankle, that's the only area where I would knock this for performance because when you don't notice this, the boots are absolutely phenomenal. And as with most Mercurials, are just top of the line, pinnacle of speed boots. You can't really go wrong with them. But when this collar starts to dig in, it's very noticeable. It's not like maybe a little bit of foot cramping that you get from the boots being narrow or something like that. It's really noticeable that's just digging into your ankle, and that can very easily drop your performance because you'll feel it whenever you're sprinting, changing direction, taking a shot. For example, one of my favorite shooting techniques to do is the knuckleball, and whenever I try to strike the knuckleball, because I have to plantar flex my ankle or dorsiflex, I might have messed that up, but whenever I have to do that, this will go like this and really force the collar seam into my ankle, which is very, very painful. And so when I'm trying to do that technique, it really drops off if I'm having that pain from this collar. So yeah, performance wise, the boots are amazing, but just for that little issue with the collar, I'm gonna have to drop it down a little bit. Give these a 9 out of 10 for performance, which is still very good, but it's reflective of the little issues that this boot has. So for my final thoughts about the Nike Mercurial Superfly 8 Elite, as mentioned throughout the entire video, you guys can probably guess, I think these are phenomenal boots. And, if you have the money or the interest to go looking on resale for them, I would definitely recommend picking these up. I'm going to give them a 9.3 out of 10 for the final rating, which is the second highest rating I've ever given to a football boot that I've ever reviewed on this channel. I think the first one is the Mercurial Superfly. No, not Superfly, the Mercurial Vapor 15 Elite, which, I guess it runs in the family with these Mercurials, right? But anyways, yeah, super comfortable, super lightweight, fun to play in. Apart from this like collar issue, very barefoot touch on the ball, um, great traction, nimble feeling, just such an amazing boot. There's not much else I can really say about how good these are. You guys get the point. If you want to actually buy a pair of these, I would recommend looking at eBay. Avoid looking at like resale sites like StockX and Goat because those sites are charging upwards of $500, $600, $700, especially for colorways like this, because white colorways are more sought after than other colors because I guess they just look really clean. So this pair I ended up getting for about 300 off of eBay, 320 something Canadian. And I've seen other colorways in similar ranges between like 150 to about 300, $400, which is definitely more respectable given that these boots retailed for 365 when they were brand new and still the current model. So yeah, definitely look on eBay if you want to get a pair of these, and I would recommend, going for more and restocking and just stocking up on these if you really enjoy the experience that I've presented to you. And if you've had a pair, definitely keep looking at them. I know I've been away for a while with my videos and my uploads. It's been a busy time with school and like work and all that other stuff, but I'm going to try and be more consistent and get more videos out to you guys so, you got stuff you can watch and enjoy off my channel. But with that said, I do post a lot on my TikTok and my Instagram. So if you guys are interested in my content here and want to see more short form content there, I would definitely recommend checking out my TikTok and my Instagram. They have the same handle as my YouTube name, elodway.football. So go there, like, comment, leave a follow, favorite videos, whatever you want to do if you enjoy this kind of content. And again, if you enjoy this kind of content, like, comment, subscribe, tell me what you think about the boots, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, tell me other things you want to see like going on in the future with this channel. With all that said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in my next video. Take care.